Welcome back, y'all, to Spiritual Bae Podcast. I'm your fave, Spiritual Bae, Monique. Thank you for letting me be a part of your day. Hope that you're having a great week thus far. Whenever you're listening, okay, I don't want to waste any time. I want to get straight to the point, y'all. So I went out with one of my local girlfriends 2 weeks ago, 2 Saturdays ago. Was it a Saturday? Yeah, it was a Saturday. Went out to eat at this spot in downtown Baltimore that's really popular, and it's been open for about 2 years. We were having a good time. She's somebody I feel safe with. She's someone who is like a soul sister, soul friend, that kind of relationship that's way beyond surface level bullshit. You know what I'm saying? And so we go inside. And it was so funny because the hostess that was there, she's telling us all these stories about things that have happened at the restaurant because they play music, today's hits and such. And so there's people of various different ages coming in there. And it's considered a 4-star restaurant. The quality of the food and the quality of the service is on par with that. And so we were really, really pleasantly surprised by how good the service was, as well as the food and such. And so the lady's telling us all these crazy stories about what has happened and what she's experienced while we're in there. And so me and Sheena looking at each other like, why every time we go somewhere, people want to tell us these crazy stories about themselves and what's happened to them. And it's just a reminder that, like, when you're deeply integrated with your spiritual self, like, these things happen all the time. But the point of this story is more so geared towards just being out in public in general as a spiritual person, as well as having connections with friends, platonic friends and such, and how quality is so much more important than quantity in terms of the amount of friends you have and the quality of them, right? We hear that a lot. It sounds very cliche in a way, maybe a little corny. I don't give a daggone, but quality over quantity, y'all. And again, I hadn't seen Sheena in 2 years. We live locally in the sense that we're in the same state, but we're an hour away from each other. And so that makes it more difficult trying to connect and hang out. Especially with my schedule involving a spouse and a kid, and then her schedule, she's not a single person, but she's in a relationship, and neither one of them have kids that live with them. So she's a little bit more flexible or whatever. And we just haven't had the chance to get together like this, and have a good time. So we're having great conversation, talking about spiritual weird shit. And then this whole, I think it was while we were eating, a whole new set of group of people came through and the place began to get busier. And when that new set of people came in, the energy kind of shifted a little bit. And Sheena and I were sitting there looking at each other like, what's happening? And she was like, girl, that damn energy shifted, didn't it? And I was like, you know what? You right on the money, friend. The energy shifted with the new crowd of people that were coming in to eat dinner on the later end. And by this time we had a cocktail or two. And so we're just chatting, and being in that space with her was, again, different than when I'm with my husband and my son. And it's so amazing to have a friend who is like a soul friend, soul sis, soul bro, because you'll be right in alignment with one another. And when things shift in the atmosphere, you both can pick it up and move accordingly. And so when the energy started to really, really shift, we got the heck up out of there. And we talked outside for a minute or two, waiting for her Uber to come and get her and such. And we just looked at each other and we were like, you know what? Maybe it's time. It's time. Our time here is done. We need to go. Because it started looking a little sketchy with some of the people that were coming in there, and it was giving power, that show Power. You know what I'm talking about, right? So remember the original season of Power, the main character, Ghost, was washing his money through his bar and restaurant and club. And so it started giving that vibe as the night went on and it got a little later. Like it was some, not crazy looking people, but just like some sketchy energy types coming in, and we got the heck up out of there. I'm being long winded. I'm sorry, y'all. And so I just appreciated the fact that I could be in a space with someone in public who also can pick up on the subtle nuances around us. And it just got me to thinking about all the relationships and friendships that I've had prior to her, because we grew up together in the same hometown, and we went to we went to the same middle school, but we went to different high schools because of where we each lived. And so we were never close growing up in high school and middle school. We always just knew each other, and we had, mutuals and things like that. And we didn't become close until we had another podcast with some ladies that we grew up with. Same kind of situation where we were all just acquaintances, but never really got close to each other back in the day. Back in 2021 is when we had another podcast called Black Women Heal. And it was a good time, and it was fun, and it ran for 6 months before I stepped down as producer of the podcast, because I just couldn't get along with one of the other ladies, and it just like messed up everything. And so that's how Sheena and I became close as adults and became soul sisters. Through that show, we became close and have kept in touch over, the last 4 years with each other, and have been out to eat and stuff before and all that. And so it just really made me think about all the friendships that I've had in the past, a lot of them, not all of them, where it has been very surface level relationships. It's centered around what person is dating what person. You meet someone you're dating, and then you become friends with their friends, situations like that, and or situations where, again, it's surface level. So it's just centered around like clubbing, hanging out, drinking and things like that. And so as an adult, it's so difficult to find real soul people to connect to locally. And especially when you're spiritually awakened and tapping out of a lot of the matrix BS. And so you may not be viewing the same televisions. You may not be hanging out at the same spots. You may be doing hobbies that your former self would have never done or thought to do, because you weren't heart centered, you weren't spiritual centered. And so even when I was a minister in the Christian faith, and most of my time was spent being a minister in training before becoming ordained. And so I had a few relationships that time too, when I was in my mid 20s, through that whole thing before I resigned as a minister. And I had some deeply connected relationships with other women in the church. But I also still feel like some of that was surface level, because it just didn't feel like soul family. Like, it's so different when you become spiritually awakened and you make connections with platonic relationships with people. It's so the feeling and the energy of it all is just entirely different. And so it took me a long time to really find people who I could call like my soul sister or my soul friend. And again, Sheena was one of those first people, and my other friend that's in a different state down south. And of course, I'm a part of the Weirdo Collective community now, founded by Natalie Marconi. And so I have them as well. We talk on Discord every day and touch base with one another. We code break. We're on Zoom a couple of times a week doing like group energy work, psychic circles, things like that, as well as on Wednesdays, we meet for group shadow work outside of the course and book that Natalie has created. And so I have those touch points too. But in waking life, in my immediate neighborhood and things like that, I don't have friends out here. And it's been a very long time since I had somebody like Sheena who I can just call and be like, girl, let's go out. Girl, let's go hang out. And I still have a couple of day one people that we get together like every couple of years. But that's not the same anymore, because our lives are different, and then we believe in different things spiritually, especially now with me no longer believing in religious gods and organized religious and things like that, and they still do. And so that creates another dynamic and barrier to building real connections with people when you become spiritually awake. And again, I had my first great awakening in late 2010, right after I turned 27, and a little bit after Omar and I got married that year. Because I turned 27 in October. We got married in December. And sometime in 2011, I started having a deeper awakening where I'm deconstructing a lot and working on shadow self, not in the way that I do now, but working on shadow aspects of self and things too. But a lot of deconstructing was around that. And so it has been, let's see, 2011, 2010 till now, like it's been years, literally, that I've been able to find soul people, platonic relationships and friendships and community. And it was just so, it felt so good to just be around someone that I could just be, be myself, and not saying that I'm not myself any other time. But if I say some stupid shit or some shit that's far out to the left or right, she's not going to look at me crazy. You know what I mean? And she's not going to judge me, and she's not going to call me crazy and tell me that my gifts are unreal or some shit like that. And that's what I mean by like quality over quantity. If for the next, how old am I? 41. So if for the next 30, 40, 50 years that I'm living on this planet and alive in my 3D body, if all I have is one or two local friends who feel like real soul connections beyond the surface level BS of materialistic things and careers and hustle culture and misogynistic patriarchal beliefs and all that stuff, then that's what it's going to be. Because I'm not going to diminish myself just to have a relationship with other people. And even in my marriage, I don't diminish who I am. And I take up all the effing space that I need to or want to. And I allow my spouse to be who he is and not deter him from his path, And so finding people that you're equally yoked with in all aspects that matter, I should say, because we will have different friend groups for different things. But I find that for me personally, that when you have people who are like soul family, the need to have different friend groups for different things, it somehow just disappears on its own in love, without any conflict, without any resentment or guilt or shame for who you are as a spiritual girly, he, she, they, them, and you move on. And I don't feel like I need a bunch of different friend groups like I used to have before. I might have had my Christian friends before. I had my day one friends before. And it's just a lot of dynamics to switch back and forth from, you know what I mean? And not switch again, not diminishing and not being inauthentic, but just being able to have conversations that you are aligned with spiritually. And I think that social media plays a huge role in how we perceive, or not perceive, but how we are triggered by people that we may have used to be really close with and no longer are. And it feels like you're isolated because that mindset and those beliefs that you used to have no longer resonate with them. And so it's difficult sometimes watching people that you used to be close with remain close with one another. Maybe it's a group of 5 or 6 people, and it seems like they're having a blast doing whatever. Maybe they are NPCs, and so then you get FOMO, you got FOMO, and you're like, damn, well, why does it seem that the people that are still out there in the midst of all the Matrix BS, why does it seem like they're having more fun than me? Why does it seem like they're making more connections than I am? And truth be told is, it's easy to have Matrix NPC friends. That's very easy. Even if you, like, I've seen people literally try to fake just to be in friend groups, certain circles. And I refuse to do that. And honestly, a lot of the people that I meet in waking life, they don't even draw to me like that in that way, because they know that something is different about me. Something about me is not aligned in the way that they are, if that makes sense. And so there's all these feelings and energy that arises when you feel like and you know that it's been difficult for you to make platonic friends and have people close enough to you where they can drive locally to come and hang out with you, to spend time with you, and just be in one another's company and such. And it's real difficult. I'm not going to lie. It's very difficult because it takes time to get to know people, just like in intimate relationships. It takes time to get to know people. And you don't want to feel like you're wasting your time putting effort into these relationships with platonic friends just to find out that you are not as aligned as you thought you were going to be. Maybe you met them at a class such as yoga, Pilates, or gardening or painting or an athletic hobby that you have. And that's what brings you guys together. But it's in other conversation outside of that you find out that they're not really aligned with who you are as a person and your core beliefs as a spiritually awakened person, and I've tried, joining clubs here in my local area, and it's just full of NPCs and people so deeply ingrained in misogyny and patriarchy and matrix BS that I don't give a damn about. And you have to take the risk of not finding anyone to find someone. I hope that makes sense. I wasn't trying to rhyme, but it did. But, as we spiritually evolve, we have to become comfortable with periods in our lives where we will feel isolated from other women, he, she, they, thems, however you identify. Especially in terms of like when you're doing shadow work and you're deeply immersed in healing some pains and traumas that you want to clear out to make room for all the new things that in the divine consciousness can impart and unlock for you energetically. And when you are so aware of the world around you, both 3D and its spiritual implications, you will become irritated. I'll just say that. You'll become fucking irritated by everything that you see. You'll become irritated by people's behaviors. Perhaps some of the things that they do will trigger you and you'll feel like you're still that unhealed person. And you think, well, I got triggered. I crashed out. So that means I'm not as spiritually advanced as I think I am. And that's not true. That's not true, because sometimes these motherfuckers be needing that crash out that you have to serve, especially when they're not respecting your boundaries, especially when they want to test you and test your limits and make you out to be the villain. And it's like, okay, I'll be the villain. That's fine. I don't give a damn, because I'm not going to align myself with people who are not equally yoked to where I'm going in life, as well as to who I am as a spiritual person. I'm just not going to do it. And I'm going to take up all the effing space. And if they have a problem with that, then they can just go tell their mama about it. Don't tell me. I don't have nothing to do with it. That's your issue. And that's my whole point. It's like we have to give ourselves grace and be patient with who spirit sends to us, because we're not always in a good place mentally, physically, and emotionally to take on a platonic relationship with potential friends if we are in a season of isolation for the purpose of healing, because we will mess things up, and all that is aligned to that new platonic friendship will be destroyed because we don't even know ourselves enough as a spiritual person and who we are outside of our trauma to know how to be a good friend, to know what a good friend looks like, and to know what our boundaries with friendships will look like from here on out. And that's why I say quality over quantity. And that's why I'm with it. If I have a bunch of acquaintances. I have acquaintances for days. You know what I mean? And it's a good time sometimes with them too. But I'm not in their energy all the time. And there's very strict boundaries around who I call my friend and see, that's the thing too, is like, I'm at a place in my life where I don't want just friends. I want soul friends. Okay. People who feel like soul family. And that right there, it shrinks down your pool of platonic friendship potential, like probably by more than half. Just like it's hard dating out here, it's hard prospecting for potential soul friends. It's hard. And there's no other way around it. And we just have to accept the fact that we're now at a place where quality is more important than the quantity of friends that we have. And so what can we do to combat these feelings? Immerse ourselves in things that make us feel good. Immerse ourselves and in our spiritual bodies, in getting to know our spiritual self and how that translates to how we move through the world in 3D. It's just like people who jump from one relationship to the next without giving any space, time, and room to release, to a soul tie cut, and etc. And they will just hop and hop and hop and hop and hop. And we put time limits on, I'm going to give myself 6 months to heal it from this, and not realizing that you just spent 2-3 years with this person. You think that you'll be completely healed and whole enough to move on to a new relationship within a 6-month time period? Hell nah. And I've done it. When I met Omar, it was 6 months since I had separated from ex-husband. And that situation was a rebound relationship. And so in my mind at the time, I'm thinking, I'm ready. I can go out here. We wasn't together that long. It wasn't that deep. But then when I got into a relationship with Omar, I realized that it was that deep. I probably should have waited another 6 months before I started dating again. No, I know that I should have. There was still some residual there from the betrayals and the drama that I had to deal with him. And so that's what I mean by like giving yourself the time to isolate, to heal, because even though you may think that you are ready to create deep connections with these soul friendships, you don't know just how much you need to unpack until you start forming these relationships. And a lot of the things that they do trigger you. And nobody talks about that enough, where you're healing from past friendships to make room for soul friendships, because those are entirely different types of connections. And when you are seeking to create relationship with people who could be potentially soul friends, you don't want to bring any of your former issues and unhealedness into this new friendship because of some shit one of your friends did to you before that betrayed you. And so a lot of the things that we speak about in life pertaining to intimate relationships, we can use that same wisdom in our friendships. And when you disconnect from people who used to be friends, who used to be your day ones, you need time before you can start making new ones just the same. You need time before making a new intimate connection. It's no different, y'all. I don't understand why we think that there's no healing time between friendships. There's always a healing time that you need. And we may be able to discard what happened a lot easier than with intimate relationships. But to me, it's all the same. You still need time to heal from whatever happened in that past friendship. So we don't carry it into the new friendship and drive them away. You know what I mean? And so, it's a lot to unpack when you haven't taken the time, again, to get to know yourself, to know what you want from friends, and to not be forming friendships with people without our clear eyes, without our discerning and intuitive eyes, without our psychic gifts to help us see if this is really a connection that I want to make. Quality over quantity, y'all. That's the word for today. Give yourself grace. Give yourself time. Be patient with where you are. Your soul family and tribe are out there, and they will come when the timing is right and when you can be a quality friend to them and they can be a quality friend to you. Let me know how y'all feel about it. You can drop a comment in the boxes below if you're watching on YouTube, or you can send me an email at spiritualbaepod@gmail.com and ask questions or share your experiences with where you are healing and your awakening journey where you are. And even if you're seasoned in this spiritual life, send me a message anyway. I would love to hear from you. Okay. Y'all know where to find me at on TikTok, spiritualbae_. I be on TikTok talking about everything. So it's been your fave spiritual bae, Monique. Okay. Until next time, y'all, in love. And remember, quality over quantity.